Buddham namami, Dhammam namami, Sangham namami.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato
Sama samudasa.
Buddham saranam gacchami,
Buddham saranam gacchami,
Dhammam saranam gacchami,
Dhammam saranam gacchami,
Sangham saranam gacchami.
saranam gacchami.
Can I please request everyone to just by the nod of their heads if they're able to hear us? Perfect. Handing over to you, Aparna. Aparna is going to host now, so I'm going to go on mute and handing over.
Thank you very much, Vaibhav. Good morning and a warm Jai Bhim to all. Welcome to the online celebration of Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar Jayanti 2020, organized by Ambedkar International Mission, Australia. Now, before we commence our program, may I ask you to kindly comply to the following instructions such that we have minimal disturbance. Please mute your microphone such that it does not pick up any disturbances or the background noise. Please maintain social distancing standards and other government regulations. Those are applicable to you. Please send in your messages to the host in private only if necessary. If you face any technical difficulty relatively in relation to audio or streaming, then please contact Mr. Neeraj Ramteke or Dr. Vaibhav Gaikwad or Dr. Ajay Niranjane. In our understanding, we have more than 100 families that have logged in this online call. So there is a possibility that the online streaming may be having any delays. We apologize in advance should that happen to you. However, this video will be recorded and saved online on AIM Australia Facebook page for you. I would also like to acknowledge the Aboriginal and Torres Islander people as the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet. We pay our respects to the elders of past, present, and future. As we are aware of the current COVID-19 situation, AIM Australia this year has moved to an online celebration. The pandemic has limited our options of celebration, but nevertheless, we are tenacious to continue the celebration akin to every year. We have been celebrating Dr. B.R. Ambedkar Jayanti in Australia over 13 years in some of the iconic locations like the Federation Square in Melbourne, the Parliament House in Canberra, the University of Sydney in the Sydney campus, and many more. These celebrations play a vital role in defining our goals and come up with projects to help and support community in Australia and India. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar footprints are everlasting. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar is identified by his contribution to the human rights, his revolutionary thoughts, and work on uplifting the oppressed classes and women's rights. He is known as the symbol of knowledge on international platforms because of his intellectual contributions in the fields of economics, political, and human rights. And today, we take great joy to celebrate the 129th birth anniversary of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. I, Aparna Ramteke, on behalf of AIM Australia, would like to thank you for joining from different parts of the globe to participate in this online celebration. Your enthusiastic online presence, irrespective of the time difference, is genuinely appreciated. The agenda of today's program is, firstly, Vandana by Venerable Ayya Yeshe, followed by a minute's meditation, a brief introduction to AIM, We will also have a brief talk from our esteemed guest speakers, Professor Louis Cabrera, Dr. Ian Woolford, Dr. Suraj Yengde, Dr. Mridula Chakrabarti, Professor Haripriya Rangan, V. Geetha. Followed by we have a short message from kids and a song by our team members of Rahul Gangurde, Saurabh Deshpande and Abhay Bhosekar. Finally, we'll have a vote of thanks by Charushil Ghana. Now, may I request Venerable Ayayeshe to kindly proceed with the Trishul and Panchashil. Before that, I would just like to give you a brief introduction of Venerable. So Ayayeshe has been a Buddhist nun since last 19 years and has been the director of Bodhisattva Foundation, which is based in Nagpur. She is trained in both Mahayana and Theravada and also starting a monastery in Tasmania. I would request Venerable Ayayeshe to kindly progress with the Vandana now.
Okay. Jai Bhim, everyone. So just put your mind in a peaceful state, because remember, Dr. Ambedkar said this is not just a physical revolution, it's a spiritual revolution to reclaim human dignity. So just follow your breath just for a minute, and then we'll do the Tri Saran Panchashil. Make your mind calm so that you have the courage to make this revolution a peaceful one and a profound one. Just follow your breath for a minute. Observe your breath coming in and out of your nose. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sambuddhassa. So feel free to chant with me. Buddham saranam gacchami, Dhammam saranam gacchami, Sangham saranam gacchami, Dutiyampe Buddham saranam gacchami, Dutiyampe Dhammam saranam gacchami, Dutiyampe Sangham saranam gacchami, Tatiyampe Buddham saranam gacchami, Tatiyampe Dhammam saranam gacchami, Tatiyampe Sangham saranam gacchami. And the 5 precepts. Panatipata veramani sikapadam samadhiyami. Adinana veramani sikapadam samadhiyami. Kame sumichachara veramani sikapadam samadhiyami. Musavara veramani sikapadam samadhiyami. Sura meraya majja pramadatana veramani sikapadam samadhiyami. I will not kill, I will not steal, I will not commit sexual misconduct, I will not lie or commit false speech, and I will abstain from taking intoxicants like alcohol. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. May all beings be happy and well. Jai Bhim.
Thank you very much, Venerable Ayayeshe, for the Vandana and conducting the 1-minute meditation. It was a profound experience. Now, I would like to briefly give you an introduction of AIM. AIM stands for Ambedkar International Mission. AIM is a group of like-minded Ambedkarites across the globe. It was started by late Mr. Raju Kamble. It was a very humble start in Malaysia back in early 90s, where a couple of families came together to share a common platform to share the Ambedkar philosophy. As the members moved to other countries, AIM family grew, and now AIM has presence across the globe in USA, UAE, New Zealand, France, Japan, Germany, Canada, Singapore, and of course, Australia. AIM Australia looks to build an empathetic community to help and support the disadvantaged classes, lend a helping hand to those in astringent existing circumstances, and create awareness of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar's vision and work. We support a number of small and medium-sized projects to support Buddhist monks, which enable them to conduct their routine Buddhist workshops in their regions. Currently, we are in the process of funding $1,000 to an NGO based in Nagpur, India. This fund will be utilized in providing food essentials to the families who have lost their earnings because of the pandemic. We undertake several social and community initiatives too. Some of the notable ones for this year have been a donation of $1,000 to FONA, which is for Australian wildlife needing aid during the recent bushfire crisis in Australia. This money will go towards providing food and housing for wildlife bushfire victims. AIM Australia has also donated over $1,000 to various projects across India to support some of the most marginalized communities. We hope to continue our mission with continued zeal and efforts. May I now request Dr. Vaibhav Gaikwad to kindly take over the mic to host the next section of the program. Thank you very much, and Jai Bhim.
Jai Bhim, Aparna, and thank you for introducing us. I'm just going to go back to the speaker view, so just give me 1 second. Yes, just by the nod of your head, can you all see me and hear me? Okay. There are some who are still on unmute. Yeah, so thanks very much for that, Aparna, and welcome each and every one of you to what we believe is a very unique and possibly the world's first completely online Ambedkar Jayanti. So thank you very much for being a part of this. And over the next half an hour, I'm going to be your host. And this part of the event is essentially going to entail a series of short speeches from some of our most eminent scholars across the globe. Our speakers today are from Australia, the US, and India. Over the next half hour, we are going to have a vast body of knowledge broadcasted towards us. So let us try and assimilate as much as we can and take advantage of this. So the way that we're going to do this is I will introduce a speaker and then they will deliver their speech, and then we move on to the next speaker. So this was just for introducing for the benefit of our speakers as well. And to start the proceedings, I'm going to introduce Professor Luis Cabrera. So Professor Luis Cabrera, can you unmute your mic and just let me know if you're still hearing us and are okay for proceeding? I'll introduce you now.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, I'm here. Thank you.
Thanks. So I'm just going to introduce Professor Cabrera. Luis Cabrera is an associate professor in the School of Government and International Relations at the Griffith Asia Institute. That's in the Griffiths University. His research has focused on global citizenship, migration ethics, and the development of more accountable and rights protective regional and global political institutions. His recent works include a monograph titled The Humble Cosmopolitan, Rights, Diversity, and Trans-State Democracy, and also an edited volume titled Institutional Cosmopolitanism. Professor Cabrera, I hand over the stage to you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Guy. Good morning, everyone, and Jai Bhim. I'm very pleased to be with you today. Dr. Ambedkar has been a huge part of my work And increasingly in my life over the last 10 years, I've been terribly inspired by his political thought, his moral arguments, and they have inspired virtually every page of this most recent book that was mentioned, The Humble Cosmopolitan. So I'd like to speak to you today about just a little bit about his approach to nationalism and national belonging. So Dr. Ambedkar is very complex on nationalism, but I've found that his most consistent position is one that's instrumental. And what I mean by that, he sees shared national sentiment as a means to an end primarily. The end is equality and the human rights of all persons, and nationalism should be seen as instrumental to achieving that end. So I see this sort of instrumentalism consistent throughout his work and action. So as we will know, for decades earlier in his career, he worked to put in place the voting rules and equal democratic institutions that would uphold the rights of Dalits. When he became chair of the Constitutional Drafting Committee in the late 1940s, suddenly he had the lead role in designing the rules and democratic institutions that would embody the equal rights of all Indians and would help advance them. So for Dr. Ambedkar, nationalism was primarily a way to advance those equal rights. It was a secular nationalism. It was not rooted in an interpretation of Hinduism or other religions, and it was a nationalism which was more forward-looking. The nation was not determined by what had been the dominant narratives, but what could be created by Indians from a foundation of equality. So I'll just read a very brief quotation from a speech that he gave in 1942, a radio speech, when he was head of the Independent Labor Party. So Dr. Ambedkar said, quote, "Labor is interested in nationalism only because the wheels of democracy work better in a community united by national sentiments. Nationalism to labor is only a means to an end. It is not an end in itself to which labor can agree to sacrifice what it regards as the most essential principles of life," end quote. And for Dr. Ambedkar, again, it was the individual human rights, not the nation, which was the ultimate object of moral concern. The individual was, quote, "the end and not the means of all social purposes," end quote. So national sentiment can be useful in uniting individuals, but only as a means to the end of promoting their individual rights. Thus, we see in the preamble to the 1950 Constitution these words: "We, the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, secular democratic republic, and to secure to all its citizens justice, social, economic, and political, liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith, and worship, equality of status and opportunity, and to promote among them all fraternity, assuring the dignity of the individual and the unity and integrity of the nation." So Dr. Ambedkar sought to present and develop a document that would help to unite all groups and all persons in India, and it would advance their equal status and equal rights while bringing them together as Indians deserving of those equal status and equal rights. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Cabrera, for that very concentrated and intense burst of knowledge. And thank you so much for enlightening us on Ambedkar and his idea of a nation, which is the theme for this year's Jayanti. So just to let everyone know that some of our speakers will be speaking on Ambedkar and his idea of a nation, while some of our speakers will be giving us a view of the more recent conditions in India pertaining to how caste has played a role in the coronavirus pandemic. So thank you very much again, Professor. So we are now moving on to our second speaker, which is Dr. Ian Woolford from La Trobe University. Welcome, Dr. Woolford. To introduce him briefly, Ian is a lecturer in Hindi at the La Trobe University. Mind you, his Hindi is more fluent than any one of us over here. He heads the Hindi language program at La Trobe and teaches courses in South Asian culture. So, Ian, this is over to you.
Thank you very much, Vaibhav, and thank you for this opportunity to speak on the occasion of Ambedkar Jayanti. When we were first discussing the topic of Ambedkar and the idea of the nation, you all know India was engulfed in this protest movement that spoke to this notion of the idea of India, who gets to belong, our legal, historical, and generations-long emotional connections to India sufficient for citizenship. And obviously so much of Ambedkar's work and his famous text, especially Annihilation of Caste, is about this idea. And he argued that up until that point, so much of what had bound various social entities together in India were in fact, he called them a kind of fabrication. And he warned that while caste does nothing but divide, demoralize, and deplete the nation, but that there's one phenomenon that does bring about a federation between those groups, and that he said was violence, right? Communal violence. And if the idea of India had been built on that system instead of the one put forth in India's constitution, then the only thing holding it together would be these system of entrenched inequality engaged in reactionary gestures. And in any country, these reactionary forces see the nation as fixed, they see it as timeless. So in India, they argue that the nation is ancient and unchanging, stretches back into prehistory. In Australia, we get similar forces obsessing over something called Western civilization. But Ambedkar really argued that in the nation, nothing is fixed. He said that change is a law of life for individuals as well as for our society. That's his words. Look, we're all facing a change now. We're all locked down. My university is just an idea to me now. It's the corner of my kitchen table right here. It's emails, it's Zoom, and anyone can join. And I rethink this virtual university into existence every morning. And it's likewise for the virtual nation. My friends up the street in Melbourne, some of them I see here, you're just as far away from me now as my friends in Delhi or Bihar. India and Australia's borders are closed, but my friends in India, in a way, are closer to me than they have been before. With the virtual nation comes new responsibilities, and I can give one obvious example of how Australia is falling short here, how the virtual nation is excluding disadvantaged communities. We're not meeting our responsibility for students from India and other international students. Our Prime Minister told them to go home. This despite everything they contribute to our face-to-face economy. So just on this thought of individuals who provide sustenance for a nation, the disadvantaged individuals who might be excluded when the nation goes virtual, I'll just leave you with a poem by Om Prakash Valmiki that I read with my Hindi students, my intermediate Hindi students. And in this poem, he creates a series of sort of cascading levels of ownership from the field to the courtyard, all the way into for the field all the way into the courtyard. Thakur ka kuan by Om Prakash Valmiki, the Thakur's well. Chulha mitti talab ki, talab Thakur ka. So the stove is made of mud. The mud comes from the lake, but the lake belongs to the landlord. Bhook roti ki, roti bajre ki, bajra khet ka, khet Thakur ka. So we have hunger for bread. The bread comes from the millet comes from the field, but the field is the landlord's. Bail Thakur ka, hal Thakur ka, hal ki moot par hatheli apni, fasal Thakur ki. So the ox plow for the landlord, but the hand gripping it is ours, yet the harvest is from the landlord. The well, the water, the field and crops belong to the landlord. The neighborhood lanes belong to the landlord. So what is ours, he says? Kuan Thakur ka, pani Thakur ka, khet kalihan Thakur ke, gali mohalle Thakur ke, phir apna kya, gaon, shahar, desh, the village, the city, the nation. So thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak today.
Thank you so much, Ian. And, as usual, for a rock star performance and also enlightening us with the virtual idea of a nation. Thank you so much for joining us today, and Jai Bhim. So now moving on, we are going all across the globe to the US. Dr. Suraj Yengde from Harvard University is going to be our next speaker. So Suraj, are you able to hear us? If you can start your video, just let me know if you are able to hear us. You're still on unmute. You're still on mute, Suraj.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes. So just give me 1 second before I introduce you, and then I'll hand it over to you. So Dr. Suraj Yengde is an inaugural postdoctoral fellow at the Initiative for Institutional Anti-Racism and Accountability at the Shorenstein Center on media, politics, and public policy at the Harvard Kennedy School. He's an award-winning scholar and an activist from India and an author of the bestseller book Caste Matters. It also recently featured in the best non-fiction books of the decade list by The Hindu. Amongst other things, Suraj is also India's first Dalit PhD holder from an African university. So welcome, Suraj, and I hand over the dais to you.
Thank you so much, Vaibhav. I am so happy to be here. I think my first 10 minutes will go thanking the beautiful people I'm seeing on the screen, but I'll still thank. I want to acknowledge first of all you and your wonderful wife, both Jai Bhim, and thank you. So good to see you both. I can see Ajay and his beautiful family. I can see Rupali, Parag on the screen, and there the kids are there. And my dear colleagues and families across. Venerable Aya Eshe is here. I think she must be in Nagpur as we speak. Oh, she's not. Wherever you are, my greetings to you. Geetha is there. We had recently met in Chennai a few months ago. I've been trying to follow her excellent seminars she's giving with my friend, and maybe I'll join sometimes. And Robin was here. Louis, pleasure to meet you. Mridula is there. I just see her on the left side. Ian, pleasure, and thank you everybody. This is a very exciting moment, but also it's a very depressing moment because right now, I think I will talk about Babasaheb, but through Babasaheb, I would like to reflect upon some of the lacunas or some of the shortcomings of Babasaheb's work that has not reached into our veins and into our minds. And I don't want this celebration to only be a moment of coming together and celebrating, but I want this also hopeful. I'm hopeful that hopefully we will come out of this with a certain resolution. And I think the reason I am so tired and frustrated is because it is to the credit of the grassroots movements, poor people, working class people, who were working in the mills, who were working on the fields, and also people who were the first time educated and who went into jobs, mostly the third rank or the fourth rank, or we call it third or fourth class level bank, and sometimes second class, but not first class to the most, that the legacy of Babasaheb Ambedkar was carried on. We all know when Babasaheb Ambedkar died, his landlord actually had thrown all of his valuable possessions out, and they were asked to evacuate the property of 26 Alipur. Now it is a huge mansion, and it's an exhibition where the world can witness the great legacy of Babasaheb Ambedkar. But when he died in 1956, we have to understand how much of a disowned the person was. And when he was thrown out, or when his valuable possessions were thrown out, some of the biggest losses we had is his manuscripts, his hand. I mean, the books he was planning to write, and many of the notes and many of his possessions were exposed. And unfortunately, it rained 2 days continuously in Delhi, and we lost much of the important works that Babasaheb was planning to do, and many of his unfinished work that is with us is a great loss to humanity as a whole. Where we see when Babasaheb, when he passed away, the news spread like a wildfire, as we know, and the entire country was in grief. And the countries and the states that were alert about this situation. One of the front runner was Maharashtra, of course, his home state, but also his center of activity, because he had done much of his political as well as socio-economic kind of activism there. And when the news spread and when the news came to Mumbai, people were crying, people were beating their chest. Daya Pawar in his autobiography Baluta writes, as well as in Vasant Moon's description of the narrative, they describe as to there is always an incident where people describe about this horrendous news reaching to their parents' ears. Same happens with Narendra Jadhav, who writes in Amsa Bapani Ami, and which is translated as the Untouchables, about when this news came that people felt like some of them had died. Similar incident had occurred in the life of Kanshiram, where his colleague was bitterly crying when the news came of Babasaheb Ambedkar's death. And when the dead body had to be brought to Mumbai, the Nehru government did not give the money, and so it took a lot of effort. So Nehru said, "I will just pay half money of the flight and the half you raise," and it was all hell broke loose, and finally the body was brought to the airport, and we know how Santa Cruz airport and the whole lanes were crowded with ocean of people grieving and mourning the death of their beloved leader, whom they considered auspicious in their life. The reason I give you this description is because similar situations we are seeing right now, where tokenizing of Babasaheb Ambedkar is happening a lot. The people who believe in Babasaheb's legacy and his actions are actually being incarcerated into prison. One of the most important and urgent news for us is the intimidation done by the current BJP government of Anil Teltumde, who is a grandson-in-law of Babasaheb Ambedkar. And on 14th April, this is an occasion that they have chosen to, a police from Maharashtra state will go to Rajgraha and take Anil Teltumde out of his house, and they will incarcerate him in prison. Why? Because he chose to stand for the rights of you and me. He was one who wrote, who debated, who contributed to intellectual knowledge production, but also he wanted to hold accountable to those casteist forces who wanted to use the Brahminical values to denigrate our every other actions. And Anil Teltumde is one of those epitomes who represents many of our values. But what does the government do? The government slaps him as a Naxal. And when you are charged as a Naxal, even before the verdict comes, you are lodged into prison for 3 to 4 years and 5 years. And this is what this government has been doing. So we might celebrate Babasaheb Ambedkar, and we might even hold his values close to us, but the people, the enemies on the other front, are not on the same plane. They want to appropriate Babasaheb Ambedkar so that our legitimate voice kind of corners. And the best example is of Anil Teltumde. And I thought I should just bring out this provocation so we kind of get a perspective of when we are gathering together in this pre-apocalyptic times, where this virus, as I write in my recent Indian Express column, has made us all untouchables across the world. We are asked to social distance. There is a physical distancing. There is a self-imposed quarantine, which is a social boycott. Well, welcome to the life of untouchables. This is what 70+% of Dalits living in rural areas continue to suffer every day coronavirus as we talk. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Suraj. And as always, for inspiring us and keeping us grounded and making us aware of what the situation is actually on the ground, and also, inspiring us to do something more. Thank you very much for that inspirational talk. And the next person to in the lineup is Professor Haripriya Rangan. She's from University of Melbourne, and she's an associate professor there. And her primary research interest is in political ecology. Right now, she can't join us as on live video today because she is actually in Vipassana. So she has given us a recording, a 2-minute recording, which I will share with each of you. And hopefully the technology supports us and we are all able to view her. So give me 1 second when I go and share my screen. Just by the nod of your head, are you able to see a black screen in front of you? Okay. And If you are able to hear the audio and video together, please nod your head.
Greetings, everyone, on Ambedkar Jayanti. It's a great privilege for me to be able to talk today for a short while. When Vaibhav invited me, I pointed out to him that I am not an expert or a scholar of Dr. Ambedkar and his work, but he has great faith in me, and so he asked me to talk. And so in my view, I guess the topic, the idea of the nation and Dr. Ambedkar, what I can say is that Dr. Ambedkar has given two great gifts to us, and us as Indians and us more broadly. One is that he actually questioned the idea of the nation in some ways, because as we know, the idea of a nation is one where there is an imagined community, as Benedict Anderson pointed out. And there's this sense that we have shared values and there is some kind of harmony, a big family. But in reality, a nation is actually not all homogeneous. It is much more complicated and diverse and fragmented. And in the case of India, I think in the middle of all of that independence movement, Dr. Ambedkar made it very clear that caste was a big issue, and that any kind of nationalism that didn't recognize that disparity in society and didn't try and address it was not going to succeed. And that is why I think his great contribution in shaping the Constitution of India has made such a big difference. Most of us growing up didn't realize it, but I think today it is extremely pertinent when it comes to the issue of what it means to be a citizen of India. So that is Dr. Ambedkar's first gift, and I think we will always be really, really grateful to him about that. And the second great gift that Dr. Ambedkar gave to India was to actually bring to attention the importance of knowledge as the basis of faith, and knowledge as the basis of establishing respect. And that is, I think, was most well expressed when he chose to renounce Hinduism and take up Buddhism. It wasn't done lightly, but it was really important that he studied what Buddha's teachings were, and he recognized that it was important as a leader and as a visible leader of the scheduled castes, as they were called, or the Dalits, that he needed to make a stand and embrace a religion that emphasized knowledge, self-learning, self-awareness, and respect, and compassion. And so that is the second greatest gift that Dr. Ambedkar has given all of us. And I think that's how we need to remember him and keep his spirit alive in our difficult times today. Thank you very much.
So I hope that was audible and visible to everyone. Thanks for listening to that. And our final speaker for the day is Geetha, who, as many of you know, is a prominent and a well-known scholar on feminism and caste, known not only in India but also across the globe. Geetha is the publisher and the co-director of Tara Books in Chennai. She has studied at the Madras Christian College and at the University of Iowa, and has been involved in political activism right from her college days. Some of her path-breaking works include Patriarchy, Gender, and a work titled Towards a Non-Brahmin Millennium. She's currently researching the works and thoughts of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, and as Suraj said, she is also running an online session where she's teaching Ambedkar. So that is something which we would like to also talk to you about at a later stage, Geetha. So I'm going to hand over to you. And are you able to hear us properly?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes.
Over to you.
Yeah. Thank you, Vaibhav, and thanks, friends in Australia, for this wonderful occasion. It's always a pleasure and a responsibility to speak about Babasaheb Dr. Ambedkar's life and work. And I think today we are doing so during a very, very, very difficult time. These are difficult times, not only for India, but for the rest of the world. The pandemic has shown up all the ugly contradictions in our social and economic lives. And in India, as I'm sure many of you know, we've been witness to this terribly tragic sight of countless workers who make our lives livable, whose labor sustains us, having to leave their places of work, having to desert their homes because there is simply no work in the cities for them. And they think by going back home to the villages, they might be able to at least have a single meal or be with their loved ones. So the sight of hunger that we see on our streets today, and the suffering of people who never wanted to live on charity but on their labor, this is something that gives us pause and returns us to some of the more central themes in Dr. Ambedkar's life and work. And here I want to invoke the speech that he made in the Constituent Assembly while presenting the draft constitution, where he said that very soon we are going to be a political democracy. But if this democracy has to be actualized, if it has to work for Indians, then we need to also pay attention to what he called economic democracy and social democracy. And basically, he wanted us to take note of the fact that unless you have a politics which is devoted to the annihilation of caste on the one hand and to distributive justice on the other, we cannot ever hope to be a politically viable democratic society. The alternative, Dr. Ambedkar cautioned us, was either authoritarian rule or anarchy. And tragically, India is sort of witness to both developments at the same time. A government that is not known for its democratic credentials, and a sense of despair and anarchy on the streets, a directionless sense of where are we to go from here, especially in the face of widespread economic and social suffering. So, and I think for us, this was encapsulated in a worker's words when he said, what is our choice? Either we die of hunger or we die from the virus. Now, this is a kind of choice no civilized society ought to countenance. And of course, over the long history of our existence as a republic, we have achieved some things. Affirmative action has done a great deal to bring to the fore Bahujan Dalit persons in government, in the legislature, in our educational institutions, and I think that's no mean achievement. In practical terms, we've been a functional democracy, but still there's a long, long way to go, and currently it seems to us that it's economic democracy at stake. And here I would like us to remember that Babasaheb Dr. Ambedkar was an inveterate opponent of private property on the one hand and the law of contract on the other. He said the freedom to labor is really not a freedom because that freedom is compromised by an existing unequal economic and social context. So he was a very sort of lifelong opponent of the logic of the market and of the logic of capitalism. And he wanted a collective solution to economic inequality, including enduring guarantees for labor by way of social insurance, rights in collective agriculture and state-owned industry. But Ambedkar was also aware, but to get there, to create this sort of viable state and society, we need to do one more thing, and that is something that cannot await a future, and that is the annihilation of caste. Because as long as caste persists, we're unlikely to value either the laboring person or labor. Because in caste society, labor is marked either as service or as stigma. Labor does not secrete value, does not produce value, which is why the hardest and most difficult tasks in India are the least supported, the least paid for, like sanitary labor, for instance, much of which is performed by Dalits. And the bulk of the Indian working class comprises Dalits and Adivasis. And we see how these laboring lives are valued or not valued. So for us, a fight for economic democracy has to go hand in hand with the fight against caste. And what unites these two struggles? And that is Babasaheb Dr. Ambedkar's vision of social comradeship, of fraternity. His conviction that we can only be human when we are fraternal, that it is only when we mutually recognize each other as equal, as valuable, as wanting to live together in what he called associated life in conjoint existence, can we realize ourselves as a just democratic society. And I think this is the path that he took when he embraced Buddhism in 1956. And that is something that we need to also sort of keep in mind, that his search for fellowship, for social fellowship, is what brought him to Buddhism. And I think I would like to conclude the search that we are in for social democracy and economic democracy by reading from the Buddha and his Dhamma, a very short passage. This is book 3, part 5, and the question he wants us to understand is, what is Sadhamma? Dhamma is Sadhamma only when it teaches that more than Karuna, what is necessary is Maitri. The Buddha did not stop with teaching Karuna. Karuna is only life for human beings. Buddha went beyond and taught Maitri. Maitri is love for living beings. The Buddha wanted man not to stop with Karuna, to go beyond mankind and cultivate the spirit of Maitri for all living beings. As the end of the rainy day approaches, the rainy season, the sun rising into the clear and cloudless sky banishes all the dark sources and glows and shines and blazes forth. And in the same way again, as at night's end the morning star glows and shines and blazes forth, so none of the means employed to acquire religious merit as a 16th part of the value of loving kindness. Loving kindness, which is freedom of heart, absorbs them. It glows, it shines, it blazes forth. And it is Maitri that we need to be at the heart of not only our political systems, but our social and economic systems. Jai Bhim.
Jai Bhim, Geetha, thank you so much for your words and for also making us aware as to what is the current situation in India and what are the possible solutions that we can gain from Dr. Ambedkar. So thank you very much for joining us. I know it has been an early morning for you, I guess, to start with. So thanks again for that. And on that note, we conclude this session of the short speeches, and we move on to our next one, which is a song by 3 of our group members over here. But before we go to that, there's a message from one of our junior Ambedkarites, which he wants to convey to each and every one of you. So I'm going to share my screen again, and again, let's follow the same protocol of nodding the heads if you are able to hear me again. So just give me 1 second. So are you able to see the screen? Okay, starting the video now.
My name is Vansh Punekar, and Dr. Ambedkar is my inspiration because he gave an equal opportunity to educate, agitate, and organize. He wrote the Constitution of India that has made all Indians live their lives equally. A salute to the great visionary of India. Thank you, and Jai Bhim.
So that was a message from our junior Ambedkar at Vansh Punekar, and isn't he the cutest? Stay home. That's the best stay-at-home message that I've seen till now. So thank you so much, Vansh, for giving us that. And now I'm going to hand over to three rock stars, Ambedkarite rock stars, for a performance which they're going to sing a song, and we're going to try and sort of coordinate the time lag and the internet connections and brave the technology and see how best we can navigate this landscape. So I'm going to go on mute, and the three people, Rahul, Saurabh, and Abhay, are going to be on unmute. So let's give it to them. Rahul, are you okay? Should I go to you?
Yeah, I think I'm good. Saurabh and Abhay, are you good?
Yes, I'm good as well.
Rahul, I'm leaving this to you to coordinate the song. Okay, I'm going on mute now.
All good, thanks. Abhay, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so let's go. First of all, we would like to apologize if there is any inconvenience due to the network issues. We'll try to sync as much as we can. It's a very short notice, but yeah, it's good to have this, and thank you for this. चांदण्याची छाया कापराची काया चांदण्याची छाया कापराची काया माऊलीची माया होता माझा भीमराया माऊलीची माया होता माझा भीमराया
तो चितला चारा देत होता सारा तो चितला चारा देत होता सारा आईचा उभारा देत होता सारा आईचा उभारा देत होता सारा भीमा आई परी चिल्या पिल्यावरी भीमा आई परी चिल्या पिल्यावरी पंख पंखराया होता माऊलीची माया होता माझा भीमराया बोलतात सारे विकासाची भाषा बोलतात सारे विकासाची भाषा लोपली निराशा आता लोपली निराशा लोपली निराशा आता लोपली निराशा 7 कोटी मधी विकासाच्या आधी 7 कोटी मधी विकासाच्या आधी विकासाचा पाया होता माझा भीमराया माऊलीची माया होता माझा भीमराया विकासाचा पाया होता माझा भीमराया माऊलीची माया होता माझा भीमराया
झाले नवे नेते मलाईच धनी झाले नवे नेते मलाईच धनी वामनच्या मनी येते जुन्या आठवणी वामनच्या मनी येते जुन्या आठवणी झुंज दिली खरी रामकुंडावरी झुंज दिली खरी रामकुंडावरी दगड गोटे खाया होता माझा भीमराया माऊलीची माया होता माझा भीमराया चांदण्याची छाया कापुराची काया चांदण्याची छाया कापुराची काया माऊलीची माया होता माझा भीमराया माऊलीची माया होता माझा
भीमराया
चांदण्याची
छाया कापराची काया चांदण्याची माऊलीची माया होता कापराची काया माऊली माया होता माझा भीमराया
माऊलीची माया होता माझा भीमराया
होता माझा भीमराया. जय भीम.
Very good.
Thank you.
This is absolutely fantastic performance, rock star performance, guys. Thank you so much. And just to let you know, these guys have been practicing for almost the whole night yesterday so that they could come up with a level of performance that is worthy of this event. So thank you so much to all three of you. You are our three musketeers. Thank you. And we're now drawing very close to end of this event. So we've actually concluded all the events that we have planned. So I'm now going to hand over to my colleague Charushil, who is going to deliver the vote of thanks. And after that, please stick around for just 1 minute because I just want to see if we can have a group Jai Bhim cheer that we can record. So over to Charushil. Charushil, are you okay to take over for the vote of thanks?
Yes. Am I audible?
Yes, you are. I'm going on mute now.
Okay. Okay. Thanks, Vaibhav. Jai Bhim, everyone. I'm Charushil Ganar. I'll be delivering the vote of thanks for today. On behalf of AIM Australia, I would like to thank each and every one of you for attending what we believe is the world's first completely online Ambedkar Jayanti. This is 129th birth anniversary of Dr. Ambedkar. So thank you for being a part of this almost historic event. I would like to extend our special thanks and gratitude to our speakers for today, Professor Luis Cabrera, Dr. Ian Woolford, Dr. Suraj, Yengde, Dr. Mridula Chakrabarti, Professor Haripriya Rangan, and V. Geetha. We are immensely grateful to you for accepting this invitation and expanding the horizon of our knowledge. Thank you very much for your support and presence. I also want to thank Venerable Ayayashe for the blessings for this event with her presence, for the delivering Trisharan and Panchashir. Finally, I would like to thank all of you for making this event such a grand success and for demonstrating that we can honor Dr. Ambedkar from the confines of our home and do our bit in preventing the spread of coronavirus. Also, thanks to Rahul, Saurabh, and Abhay, and also the Ansh Punekar for a short video. Thank you all. Jai Bhim. Stay home, maintain social distancing, and wash your hand before you touch your mark. Jai Bhim. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that vote of thanks. And may I now request everyone to go on unmute so that we can. So I'm saying 3, 2, 1, and on the count of 1.
Mute everyone's going on.
No, I'm good.
Okay, put everyone back on mute. So just wanted to say thanks to everyone. And we will be sharing the entire recording on YouTube, stitching it together for better clarity and perspective. But thanks. Also, I'd just like to thank Professor Robin Jeffrey, who's also joined us, and he's been with us since the morning. So, Robin, thank you so much for accepting our invitation, and I hope that it was worth your while. I'll touch base with you separately. So, thanks everyone, and have a safe Easter. Stay at home, and Jai Bhim.
Jai Bhim.
Jai Bhim, everyone. My name a better life. All because of our great father, Dr. Ambedkar. We should never forget we are because he was. I believe that he could achieve this because he was fond of reading books. To all is read, read, and read. Jai Bhim. Hope you like my speech.
Jai Bhim all. My name is Harshal Moon and I'm going to talk about Dr. Ambedkar and industrialization. Dr. Ambedkar had an exposure of modern industry of USA and UK. It was quite natural for Dr. Ambedkar to think of modern variety industrialization for India. There could be other reasons like his disdain for the discriminatory practices prevalent in rural locals and better likelihood of emancipation of downtrodden through urbanization and industrialization. His paper in 1918 advocates industrialization as the soundest remedy for diversification. Dr. Ambedkar was quite obsessed with the issue of industrialization. Even when he was referring to water issue, he is keeping in mind that water would be needed for industrial use. When he was talking about the need of electrical development, again, he was thinking very clearly for the industry requirement. According to him, without cheap and abundant electricity, no efforts for industrialization of India can succeed. Dr. Ambedkar was very clear that industrialization is needed to rescue people from the muddle of poverty. According to Babasaheb, we want industrialization of India as the surest means to rescue the people from the eternal cycle of poverty in which they are caught. Industrialization of India is must. He said, it will not be enough to make industrial development of India as a goal. We shall have to agree that any such industrial development shall be maintained at a socially desirable level. In Babasaheb's view, it will not be enough to bend our energies for the production of more wealth in India. We shall have to agree the basic right of Indians to share that wealth as a means for a decent and dignified existence. Thank you and Jai Bhim.
क्रांती सूर्यतु शिल्पकार तू भारताचा बोधिसत्व मूकनायका मोडलादुरी त्या परंपरा विश्वदेच तूच सकरनायका जीवन तुझे माझे प्रेरणा तावली सांडुलीच्या गर्जना गर्जना भीमराया माझ भीमराया भारताचा पाया माझ भीमराया आला उचराया आज भीमराया स्पर्शिले तू ओंजळीने फुले केले पाणी 14 तराचे हक्क देऊन माणसाचे सोने केले पीडराच्या जीवनाचे शिका संगतीत वा आणि संघर्ष करा शिका संगतीत वा आणि संघर्ष करा मदर पगरीचा नादी लालेला भीमराया माझ भीमराया भारताचा पाया माझ भीमराया माझ जय भीम.
क्रांती सूर्य तू शिल्पकार तू भारताचा बोधिसत्व मूक नायका मोडला रूढी त्या परंपरा दिव्यतेच तुझे सकल न्यायदायका क्रांती सूर्य तू शिल्पकार तू भारताचं बोधिसत्व मूक नायका मोडला रूढी त्या परंपरा दिव्यतेच तुझे सकल न्यायदायका जीवन तुझे यमास प्रेरणा ताही दिशा तुझीच गर्जना गर्जना भीमराया माझा भीमराया भारताचा पाया माझा भीमराया आला उद्धराया माझा भीमराया स्पर्शिले ती ओंजळीने खुले केले पाणी 14 तळाचे हक्क देऊन माणसाचे केले सोनी पीडितांच्या जीवनाचे शिका संघटित व्हा आणि संघर्ष करा शिका संघटित व्हा आणि संघर्ष करा, मार्ग प्रगतीच दावेला दिना. भीमराया, माझा भीमराया, भारताचा पाया, माझा भीमराया, आला उद्धराया, माझा भीमराया.
क्रांती सूर्य तू, शिल्पकार तू, भारताचा बोधिसत्व, मूक नायका. मोडल्या रूढी त्या परंपरा, दिव्य तेज तुझ सकल नाया, ही तुझी गर्जना गर्जना गर्जना. भीमराया, माझा भीमराया, भीमराया, माझा भीमराया, भारताचा पाया, माझा भीमराया. Thank you, Jai Bhim. भीमराया, माझा भीमराया, भारताचा पाया, माझा भीमराया, आला उतराया, माझा भीमराया.